Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 26 has just been released, and we are building up towards another major arc, and the build-up that we get for this chapter is absolutely perfect. So let's just jump into the chapter by discussing the chapter cover, and the perfection really starts here, as we have an epic panel of Momoshiki. We see him with the two renegades that a lot of people have most likely missed. We see him in this elegant form, showcasing these renegades, and I really love the background and how it goes alongside Momoshiki's white appearance. It really makes him pop and stand out. And the side text that we get for this chapter is actually very important. I will not be diving deep into this in this video specifically, but we'll be diving deep onto Momoshiki's fate, as everything regarding the chapter discusses both Momoshiki and Boruto's current connection. And it says a thread extends into the depths of hell. And if you guys know exactly where this story comes from and the mythology concerning Buddha, you would understand that this is a direct reference to Momoshiki and Boruto's deal. The title of this chapter is Those Who Are Connected, another reference to Momoshiki and Boruto potentially. But this chapter cover is personally my favorite chapter cover with Momoshiki. There are other ones that are in high contention, as almost every Momoshiki cover looks amazing, but if I had to rate this cover out of 10, I'd give it a cool 9 to 9.5. I really like what is going on here. We also get a glimpse of volume 6 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, which is Sarada, meaning that this is the second time that we see Sarada appear in a volume cover, just showcasing how important of a character she's going to be in the series. So this chapter starts off with that sneak peek page that we had seen of Inojin having a conversation with Himawari, where Inojin actually ends up gifting Himawari this rare honey that almost gets sold out every time. The side text for this cover is Inojin recovers from his fatal injury. It seems like Himawari is receiving some of his favor, and this favor is referencing the honey that Inojin is giving to Himawari, where after that he ends up making his way out. We can clearly tell that Inojin has feelings for Himawari. Whether it is the same for Himawari or not, I don't really know, but at least on Inojin's side, there is a lot of love that he has for Himawari, which is foreshadowing maybe something going on between Himawari and Inojin in the potential future. But after leaving the house, Inojin ends up seeing a toad, and the toad is basically attempting to confirm Inojin's current feelings for Himawari, where he provokes Inojin into basically confessing and having a reaction that basically tells us that he does have feelings for Himawari. And that is all that the toad was trying to confirm. We know that the toad is Kashin Koji, as this is a similar method in which we have seen Kashin Koji reach out to Boruto, where Kashin Koji then poses the question to Himawari if he is willing to do anything to protect Himawari, where Inojin says obviously. And based off that mutual interest that they have of protecting Himawari, they can come to an understanding. And from then on, we see a Inojin who is reverse summoned into the lair of Kashin Koji and Boruto. The first person that Inojin ends up seeing is Kashin Koji, which surprisingly Inojin seems to have a bit of information about, which means that during the time skip or during some time during the series, they were briefed on Kara, not just Boruto and Kawaki and potentially Team 7, but also the other teams. They were briefed on Kashin Koji. Boruto ends up having this epic appearance. I really like the aura that we see Boruto showcase here. He is simply chilling on a chair. He does remind me of Itachi, and this is just another way that Ikimoto just makes him look cool. And I did say this when reviewing the spoilers, but Boruto looks older than Inojin, and this is simply Ikimoto showcasing the different stress levels that they have both been put into. Due to the fact that Inojin lives this relaxed lifestyle, he doesn't really have to worry about much, and he's just living a day-to-day life, where now it seems to have ramped up. But with Boruto, he has been hunted, which definitely has played an impact in the way that he ages. So I really like this difference that we see between Boruto, somebody who has been underrun, hunted by a bunch of people, and Inojin, somebody who has lived this peaceful lifestyle. But Boruto reassures Inojin and tells him that just cooperate with us, and after you're done, we'll basically let you leave without any problems. as there is no way to get out of this hideout. The only way to do so would be through the help of Boruto and Kashin Koji. But then we go to the Shinju dimension, where we see the remnants of the Shinju, which is simply Jura, Hidari, and Bug. We see Jura again, who is feeling emotions, when Hidari, who asks him if he's alright, noting that this is quite similar to what he felt concerning Matsuri. He discusses how he has been reading a novel that has hit him pretty hard, causing him to feel emotions and cry, just like he did with Matsuri. But with Matsuri, he was feeling Matsuri's emotions, which does tell us that potentially Jura is capable, maybe due to the Renegon, or due to the simple fact that they are connected as they are to Shinju, but he is able to have a better understanding of the other Shinju's emotions compared to the other Shinju's between each other. Jura was able to feel Matsuri's emotions, her fears, her anger, her sadness, but most especially a glimpse of love. And that is what he wants to understand, and he gained more knowledge through this experiment. And this does end up telling us why exactly we didn't see Jura interfere until Boruto came to be. It was due to the simple fact that the Shinjus also allowed Jura to gain more knowledge just by seeing how they're experiencing the world around them. So Jura is not going to prevent them or basically save them, because he is letting them feel out those experiences so he himself can get a better glimpse of this world. Due to his curiosity, that's why Jura acts the way he does. And we do see Bug basically reveal that his love type is lust, which we do end up seeing as he is reading this magazine that is definitely not PG-13. And then Bug then starts to communicate to us why exactly his target is Eida. He has gained a level of understanding, whether it is by reading those magazines or is by seeing how those other Shinjus have acted. He said he believes that his instincts led him towards Eida due to the simple fact that he desires domination. In other words, he wants Eida to be his, and this is due to her superior genetic information that she definitely possesses. And this is just another aspect of lust due to the simple fact that you are trying to dominate something that isn't necessarily given to you by consent. And that is an aspect of domination, an aspect of lust through domination. But he does end up mentioning something that is quite interesting and that Jura himself found quite profound when he says that he believes that the Shinju are a species that should prosper. And what exactly this means could be quite interesting to the goals that we do end up seeing further on, as we know that Jura ends up learning not only from his own personal experiences, but from the experiences of others. A lot of people question whether Jura is going to eventually create more clones or not, but we could potentially see that being the case. What exactly is prospering for the Shinju? Is it creating more Shinju, or is it simply understanding love? This is the thought process that Jura now has with this interesting remark that we have Bug explain. This is building up towards something that we may potentially see in the future, but these are the little hints at that potential goal that we're eventually going to see the Shinju manifest. But now transitioning to another sector, a very important part of the chapter, which deals with Shikamaru's fate as Hokage, we are starting to see the repercussions of Shikamaru essentially freeing Boruto, where in this instance, people are now casting doubts on Boruto. The reason why they reached out to Inojin was due to his mind transferring jutsu, and I really like the cool way in which Ikimoto has made a character from Team 10 quite relevant, as I do now have full confidence that Ikimoto, at least all the characters that we're seeing him showcase, maybe it's not all the ones that we see in the anime, but at least Team 10, they will have a very important role to serve. And although this is not him killing somebody or fighting a very tough opponent, we're seeing the use case for Inojin, not just through his determination to protect Himawari, but also through his abilities, what makes him different, what makes him important through the series, especially due to the fact that Ino has decided to stop working with Shikamaru. And now Inojin is taking up that role to be the one who helps to mediate conversation between Kashin Koji and Shikamaru. What's quite impressive is that we learned that one of the hideouts from Kashin Koji is in the Land of Wind, which is quite far away from the Leaf Village, which tells us that Inojin has a very good grasp on his abilities to be able to communicate and pinpoint Shikamaru out of everybody from such a large distance. This is some more praise that we can give to Inojin. But essentially what is being discussed here is the fact that the worst case scenario that could take place is Shikamaru potentially being relieved of his duties as the stand-in Hokage, the stand-in 8th Hokage. And basically Kashin Koji is communicating to Shikamaru that he wants to do everything possible to allow Shikamaru to stay as Hokage. But with what is being discussed here, it seems like that may not be the case, or at least we're being hinted towards heavily at this point that Shikamaru may potentially lose his position as Hokage, as we have the second to the daimyo, which means the second highest position before the daimyo himself. He comes in and makes an appearance, where he does end up talking to Shikamaru and is basically telling him that, okay, yes, the mission was successful, but there are a few things about how you went about things, and especially how Boruto himself was freed, that does lead to a few problems. They believe that there is potentially a mole working alongside Boruto, as the information that Shikamaru got and was not revealed to them, they believe that he got it from Boruto, especially due to the fact that Boruto was allowed to escape, which means that there is another traitor, somebody alongside them that is working with Boruto. They deem it to potentially be Shikamaru, but due to the fact that we have a Konohamaru who is also trying to vindicate Boruto in the eyes of everybody, in the eyes of the council, he is looked at as a target, and he is going to be put aside to be interrogated later on, which means that the position right now is really looking bad for Shikamaru, as he does end up revealing later on in the chapter that he is going to be the next one to be interrogated. And with the way that everything is going, there is not much that could happen, as the argument that is being used is that Boruto may be potentially working with the Shinju to destabilize the leaf and potentially lead to its end, which means that even if this information is correct that he got, it is all to eventually catch the leaf off guard. And thus, since Shikamaru has gotten his information from Boruto, it would be best to appoint somebody else as Hokage, which means that the next person who is going to be the Hokage, definitely let me know who you think is going to be in the comment section below. Well, you already know what I think, most likely Kakashi, but it means that the next people who are going to come in are going to be a lot harsher, and the treatment of Boruto is going to be something that is resumed, in the sense of obviously they're trying to deal with the Shinju, but they will also be trying to hunt down Boruto at an even greater extent, now that they actually have made contact with Boruto at least once. And with the fact that the other villages could potentially be involved with this, it's going to be a lot harder for Boruto to actually operate in the leaf and help them out. But we'll have to see exactly how Boruto ends up dealing with this problem. But this is where the conversation seems to end. And conversation that is definitely tense. But then we move on to another conversation that is also tense. But before that, we have Inojin really come to the understanding that what he is doing right now is definitely strictly forbidden. And he is basically an accomplice of Boruto and Kashin Koji. And Kashin Koji essentially wants him to understand that. And Boruto tells Inojin that this is what they must do. They must break the rules because their enemies are not following any rules at all. So they have to adapt, which showcases just how much Boruto has changed. But it also showcases a change in Inojin himself, as he says that he understood that after fighting versus Jiro. And I don't know what he means by fighting versus Jiro. I mean, you got killed, you didn't land a punch, you didn't do much at all. I don't know what he's trying to say by fighting Jiro. He didn't fight him at all. But through that massacre that he underwent, where he almost ended up dying, he came to understand that in order to protect his loved one, being Himawari, he needs a strong resolve. He needs to prove that resolve. And by working alongside Boruto and Kashin Koji, somebody who is viewed as a traitor and somebody else who is viewed as a spy, he has to take these risks with a level of determination in order to protect those he loves. And Kashin Koji then moves on to a conversation that we all wondered about, and that is of Momoshiki and Boruto, as he probably saw in somewhere in the future that Boruto made a deal with Momoshiki, and he poses a question to Boruto, which Boruto basically tells him that he shouldn't worry about it, that he is simply fulfilling his role. And Kashin Koji doesn't like that answer and the overall attitude of Boruto. And this is what I've been discussing for a while now. Boruto and Kashin Koji are not necessarily on the same page, and this is not the same attitude that they had in the past, in the last battle that was actually successful. So although we know that Kashin Koji has some sort of a plan, Boruto and Kashin Koji not being in the same page is ultimately going to lead towards whatever their plans that they have for this arc in specific not to work out in the way that they intended. I fully believe that we're going to see a lot of things go wrong in this battle, not in a similar way to what happened before, where in the end they were still victorious. I believe that things are going to go wrong, whether it be due to Momoshiki, whether it be to Boruto and Kashin Koji having their own personal ideas and not trying to go alongside it. The stance from Boruto is clear. I'm not going to do anything that is going to lead towards people dying. I'm going to try my best to reduce any sort of casualty. But for Kashin Koji's perspective, he is basically doing everything to lead towards the best future, in the sense that that future is ultimately going to lead towards the Shinju being eradicated. If people have to die, whoop-de-doo. But for Boruto, he is completely against that. He doesn't view other people's lives as pawns to reach a better future. That is not the future that is deemed to be good for Boruto. But they end up stopping this conversation and continuing on with the one that they were having, where we have a Kashin Koji who is later on connected to Shikamaru again and basically reveals the information that Matsuri will be appearing a week from now and his target is Eida. And he says that he's about to brief Shikamaru on the basic abilities that Momoshiki has and how to deal with him. We see this epic panel from Boruto, Inojin, Shikamaru. They even gave Inojin aura. I'm really messing with this chapter. Everybody has aura right now. But continuing on with the chapter, we end up going back to something that is quite important. And one thing that I really love about this series right now is the consequences to each and every of the actions that are being taken. The confession that Sarada and Sume had between each other definitely came with repercussions, and this is what we're exploring right now. As a basic argument right now that we're seeing is obviously they're discussing some chit chat about how exactly they're going to confess. We do see an Eida that is super excited, but the question still remains, how are they able to have these feelings for Boruto while still remaining captives of Eida? How exactly is that possible? And then Eida, with all the evidence on her side, she poses the question, are you two still both my captives? And the answer that they were supposed to give was, yeah, we're obviously still your captives. What are you worried about? But that's not the answer that they give. Obviously, they have this flashback of Shikamaru basically telling them to remember it, or at least Sume is having this flashback. But here's where I personally believe that we have Sarada make the wrong move. As instead of dying down the question, instead of easing them through, we have a Sarada that actually ends up using her Mangekyo Sharingan. And we can definitely say that Daemon did end up baiting it, as he did make a move, as Daemon did start to move, which may have been perceived as a threat to Sarada, which led to her utilizing the Mangekyo Sharingan. That may be the case, but it was still the wrong move, as there is no way that they are going to be able to deal with Daemon. As using just one jump, Daemon is able to catch at least Sume by surprise. It can be argued that Sarada simply looked at Daemon and chose that it was best for her to not make a move, or at least not move, where using that jump sequence, as she is able to catch both of them by their neck. And this is what is being said. Sarada, did you try to do something just now? Is this your prized Mangekyo Sharingan? No matter what you try, it's meaningless, just a waste of effort, if you die before you can see it through. Now, it does hint at Sarada potentially using one of her abilities, and it is a pretty big hint at what her second ability may be, but you know we're going to be discussing that in another video. But what we're currently seeing right here is multiple different stages being built. That of Inojin becoming an important character, at least when it comes to Boruto and Kashin Koji, a new ally that they have. We obviously have Boruto and the deal that is being made, and we have the little feud between Kashin Koji and Boruto. In addition to that, we also have Shikamaru potentially losing his position, and Jura, Momoshiki, and Hidari coming up with a new plan for the Shinju, a plan to prosper their race, and Momoshiki making a move very soon. And we end the chapter with Sarada potentially being hinted towards her second ability, with Sarada and Sumire being in a rough position, a position in which who is currently able to attack them at any moment. I doubt that anything is going to happen to them, as Eida still views them as friends, but they're going to have to clear up the air. Either reveal to Eida that they are not captives or that they still are, but there is a lot to be seen in the next chapters to come. This was a very cool build-up chapter. I'd rate it a cool 7.5 in my personal opinion, and I can't wait for the next chapter to come out. But it's been your boy Dynasty. Let me know your comments, thoughts, and concerns in the comment section below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'm out, bruh.